Versace, Versace, Versace. You say that name, and it just, I don't know, it vibrates with energy, right?
It does.
And you know this documentary transcript, the one from RTE.TV, it throws you right into the middle of all that. I mean, there's that wild quote right at the beginning. They're describing the Versace world.
Yeah.
It's like family on steroids.
Wow.
And like people are screaming 1 minute and then bam, having dinner the next.
That's intense.
It's intense. And you just know instantly this isn't just about like pretty clothes or whatever. It's so personal. The stakes are huge. And man, the emotions are powerful.
You hit the nail on the head. It's that initial image, right? It kind of sums up everything that made Versace from day one. Like you said, we're not talking about just looks. It's family, it's ambition, it's this total refusal to play by the rules of the fashion world. And for anyone listening, if you've ever wondered what makes an iconic brand tick, well, this deep dive into the RTE.TV transcript, it gives you a front row seat to the whole thing.
I love that. A front row seat. And you know, we're not just getting some boring history lesson here.
No way.
We're hearing from Gianni, Donatella, and everyone who was there with them watching it all happen.
Yeah.
So today, our mission, if you will, is to break down those core elements, you know, the stuff that made Versace explode onto the scene. And then Donatella's journey, how she took the reins and made it her own.
Absolutely.
And, you know, what can we learn from all of this?
Yeah.
About creativity, about families that are, you know, a little more than close-knit, about the kind of resilience you need to build a brand that truly lasts.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. How did this fashion dynasty even get started? The transcript makes it clear that the Versaces, they were practically born into the world of style.
Oh, yeah.
Their mother, she wasn't just some seamstress. She was the dressmaker in Reggio Calabria.
Wow.
She had clients all over the place, the mayor's wife, everyone, really.
You can just picture young Gianni soaking all of that up.
Right.
Fabrics everywhere, his mother, the expert, working her magic. The transcript mentions that he was, and I quote, studying when I was very young. Clearly, he treasured that time in her atelier.
Totally. It's like fashion was in his DNA from the start.
And then there's Donatella. I mean, she was his muse, literally like his doll. He'd dress her up, sneak her out, you know, giving her this crazy early look into his creative world.
And stepping back, you realize just how formative those experiences were for both of them. Gianni's mother, she gave him more than just skills. She instilled a love for the art of making clothes. And Donatella, even as a kid, she was part of his creative journey.
I love that, a creative journey.
Then, as the transcript lays out, you've got Gianni in Milan, finding success early on, designing for all these big names, Jenny, Callahan, Complis. He even did soft dresses for Jenny. Clearly, he was making a name for himself.
And even then, you can see those early glimpses of his signature style. Like he had strong opinions about what modern clothes should be. You know, that famous quote.
Sorry.
He said the most important accessory for women was the blues with scarf.
I love that.
Such a specific detail. But it shows you he had this eye for effortless style, but with a personal twist. And then the materials he loved, silk, leather, those big, bold boots.
Yeah.
He was shaking things up, you know.
Totally. And the Milanese scene back then, kind of stuffy, maybe?
Right.
The transcript mentions our money and all these powerful families controlling things. Then, boom, Gianni arrives from the South. Color, energy, just this vibrant energy that was almost like defiant.
It was a statement, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And the way he put it, there's that great quote. If you want to say to the world, hey, look at me, I'm here, I have life, I have verve, I have energy, I have color, I have balls, you are Versace. I mean, that tells you everything.
It's like a manifesto.
It is.
He wasn't about subtlety. He wanted his designs to be seen and to, you know, make you feel something.
That's so true. And it wasn't just about the designs themselves, it was how he approached the whole process. The transcript emphasizes that he controlled everything, every detail, personally. Even with a close team, he wanted to be hands-on.
That's remarkable.
It really is. To maintain that level of control over every little thing, that had to be key to creating his unique look.
And, you know, you get the feeling he wasn't just designing clothes.
Right.
He was designing a whole vibe, an attitude.
Absolutely. It shows you what kind of creative force he was. Not just ideas, but completely immersed in the making of everything. And that's where his innovation comes in. Like, remember that secret metal fabric?
Oh, yeah?
He worked with an engineer to make it.
Really?
The first time ever you could stitch metal on a machine, the transcript calls him a revolutionary. And it's true.
He was pushing boundaries.
Totally. And it wasn't just to be different. He wanted to break down those barriers in the fashion world, put fashion on the street and really affect how people see themselves. It's amazing how far ahead he was thinking, even back then.
So we've got this family background, Gianni's drive to create, and we can't talk about Versace without talking about Donatella. I mean, the transcript describes their relationship, and it's intense. Muse, sounding board, sister, friend, even doppelganger, other half. It was deep,
Super deep. And she wasn't just sitting there looking pretty.
No way.
She was his toughest critic. Can you imagine your sibling being that brutally honest? This dress I never will wear.
Uh-huh. I know, right?
But it shows how much trust they had and how crucial she was in shaping his vision.
And that little story tells you a lot. He really valued her opinion, specifically as a woman. The transcript says, at the start of each collection, Gianni would ask Donatella what she wanted to wear. They would go back and forth, arguing, with those big personalities, but it's what made their work so good.
Exactly. And don't forget, she wasn't a late addition. From the beginning, she was right there with him working on accessories.
So you've got the family history, Gianni's groundbreaking approach, this powerful partnership with Donatella. All of that creates the Versace brand identity. And I mean, it was bold. The transcript even talks about this super sex woman concept. And it's so Italian, but also designed for everyone.
And his take on vulgarity, that's interesting. He says it's not about the clothes, it's how you act in them. And he hated the term fashion victim. He thought it was snobby.
Yeah, he wasn't about excluding anyone.
Exactly. And then there's his use of celebrities. Madonna, Princess Di, Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Claudia Schiffer, Cindy Crawford. He knew how to use those names, those powerful, sexy women, to take his brand global.
It's marketing genius.
It is. And when you think about those supermodels all on the runway together, the transcript calls it a statement of power and personality and ownership over fashion. It's an image that defined Versace.
And then everything changes. Gianni's death. The transcript doesn't shy away from the shock, the rumors. I can't imagine what Donatella went through. Taking over a fashion empire under all that pressure, it must have been incredibly difficult.
Such a huge turning point. And the fashion world, the transcript makes this clear, they had their doubts. To them, Gianni was this almost mythical figure, an instinctive genius. They thought Donatella would have to struggle to prove herself. And remember what they said about her first couture collection. Not well received. It just shows the challenges she faced, both professionally and personally.
And yet she found her way. The transcript talks about how she developed her own voice. It was still Versace, but with her own spin. She started designing for the life of the woman in the clothes. A subtle but important shift.
Right. And she moved away from what some saw as too much ornament, too much obvious sexiness. The transcript uses those exact words. She wanted something more glamorous, feminine, but still sensual and sexy. And that's when her shows, her collections really start to shine. She came into her own.
And what's interesting is how the transcript highlights her humor, her self-awareness, even that camp icon persona. It takes strength to own that.
Totally. And remember, the transcript says she insisted she was the right person. She fought for her place. She fought for the company to survive. Nothing was handed to her.
And her vision for Versace going forward, it's all about empowerment. Fashion as a way to feel confident, to express yourself. The transcript even says it can be like a weapon to reach your goal.
She gets it. And she always had an eye for new talent. The transcript mentions that too. She also talks about how Gianni's vision for women back in the 90s is still relevant now. She knows how to take those core values and make them speak to today's world.
And that example with Carla Bruni, coming back to the runway after being First Lady of France, it's powerful. It says a lot about Donatella's inclusiveness, featuring women of all ages, especially in a world that's often obsessed with youth.
That's so true. And it all culminates with what the transcript calls Donatella's core message for her legacy. She wants people to be fearless, to be provocative, to fight for your ideas. A pretty powerful statement.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Versace, some key things really stand out. We talked about that intense family dynamic that shaped the brand from the start. We looked at Gianni's revolution, how he shook up fashion with his bold ideas and his smart use of celebrities. And then Donatella's journey, the challenges she faced, and how she came out on top, staying true to the Versace legacy while making it her own.
It makes you think, doesn't it? All that passion, all that drama is part of what makes Versace so captivating.
Absolutely.
So here's something to consider. How do those intertwined stories, the personal and the professional, the highs and the lows, how does all of that contribute to the myth, the legend of Versace? How can vulnerability and strength together build a global empire? That's something worth thinking about.
It is.